I tested it. Oh, maybe it's going now. I don't know. YouTube's slow. It looks like it.
Okay. Good.
I guess YouTube's slow. I don't know.
We are live now, Mike, on streaming.
There's no video, but. I don't know. All right, Gary, we might as well start. This is Kevin L.
Okay, we all set?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, just let me know when we can begin.
Okay, we are recording. I'm not sure that we're broadcasting live, but we are recording, and we'll post that later. The system is not working.
So we're recording right now.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Oswego County of Oswego Industrial Development Agency meeting of January 12th, 2022. And this meeting is being held virtually. And Kevin Clement for Caracoli, would you explain why this meeting is being held virtually, please?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. The meeting is entitled to be held remotely via Zoom this morning, pursuant to Governor Hochul's executive order that was originally issued back in September, has continued on at least at this point through January 15th, as it relates directly to local governments and public authorities. And that executive order allows a government entity to broadcast its meetings online or via conference call, and actually to the exclusion of other interested parties, if that case may be. It applies to all local governments as well as state executive agencies. So that's the reason for meeting remotely in this era of continuing COVID and the outbreaks. We're entitled to meet this way and conduct business as if we were all sitting around the table.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And Kevin Lamontagne, would you please introduce the staff and the guests that are participating in this meeting? And I'm going to also, after that, have Secretary Treasurer Len Schick do a roll call to ensure that we have a quorum. So, Kevin, would you please start?
Sure, Gary. This is Kevin Lamontagne. Before I start introducing the attendees, who called in with number 6337?
It's Barry, I got cut off.
Oh, sorry, Barry. I should know your number by now. Thank you. Okay, so here we go. As far as IDA board members, we have Gary Tove, Barry Trimble, Len Schick, and Tim Stahl. We our the IDA's general counsel, Kevin Caracoli, is on Zoom. Here in the IDA offices, we have Mike Treadwell, Austin Wheelock, and Kevin Lamontagne. So at the moment, that's who's in the meeting. If anyone else, oh, excuse me, Dave, and Dave Turner from Oswego County. If anyone else joins, I'll announce them.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. Len, would you do a roll call just to verify we have a quorum, please?
Okay, sure. Gary Tove,
Present.
Tim Stahl,
Okay.
Present.
Barry Trimble, Schick is present. Absent is Morris Savello, Nick Canali, and Tom Callis.
And Lanny and Gary, this is Kevin LaMontagne again. We have Morris now joining by phone. I'll bring him in here. Morris, can you hear me? Morris? Can you hear me, Morris?
Just a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. You're online with the IDA meeting?
Okay.
We just did roll call, Morris.
Okay, so we'll have Morris do our roll call. Len, and Morris, welcome. It's good to have you on the call. And thank you to everybody else that's participating. So we'll start going through the agenda. First of all, the minutes of our meeting on November 22nd, 2021. Everybody, I'm sure, got them through the portal. Is there any additions? Can I take a motion on the minutes, please? Do I have a second?
Second on it.
Okay, who made the motion? I didn't quite hear that.
It's like it's Barry.
Oh, Barry. Okay, motion by Barry Trimble, seconded by who?
Tim.
Waking up a little bit.
Tim Stahl.
Seconded by Tim Stahl. Okay, thank you. Are there any additions, errors, or corrections in the minutes? Okay, hearing none. Len, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Okay, Gary Toth,
Yes.
Tim Stahl,
Yes.
Barry Trumbull,
Yes.
Morris Savello,
Yes.
Len Schick is a yes, that's unanimous.
Okay, the minutes are carried. There was no treasurer's report sent out this past communications. So going to 3, the notice of the meeting was published in the Palladium Times on January 5th, 2022. And now we're down to item number 4 on the agenda, B Squared Management LLC. Who's going to speak on behalf of that?
It's gonna be Kevin, but he had
Here I
to,
am.
oh, here he is, he snuck up on me.
So V Squared Management is the real estate holding company associated with Healthway Home Products, manufacturer of air filtration products in Pulaski. What's happening up there? The company's building a 32,000 square foot expansion of an existing 9,000 square foot building. This is the former Caprara dealership on the edge of Pulaski, out by the north entrance to 81 there, where Route 2A connects back in. So it's right inside the village line. They've owned the property for just over 4 years now, I think it is. They've been doing a little bit of work in the existing former car dealership buildings, but with the expansion Healthway has been undergoing with the demand for their products, they need to expand this building. So it'll be a fully manufacturing project. There is a small building there that's been demolished in order to build the 32,000 square foot expansion. So altogether, it'll be about a 41,000 square foot building when they're done on the existing site, 20-acre site. And basically, they won't be closing any facilities in Pulaski. They'll instead be rearranging. They will be. This is their third. They have 3 separate facilities in Pulaski. This will be, of course, the expansion of one of them. And once this expansion is completed, they'll be able to set up their manufacturing in a more effective way with more space and continue to grow. They expect to add 75 jobs with this expansion. At the time of the application, the employment was 75, but it's above that now. Altogether, it's a $2.8 million project. They've applied for the package of IDA benefits, including a pilot, mortgage recording tax exemption, and sales tax exemption for the project. The pilot is a standard. We haven't had many of these recently, but it's I shouldn't say standard, but a manufacturer UTEP pilot, where the current tax revenues for the taxing authorities will be maintained by way of the pilot agreement, and then the exemption, 20-year exemption schedule would apply to any increase in assessment on the parcel. It's currently assessed at $406,000. So, and then of course once the building is complete, they'll be under mortgage. So the mortgage recording tax exemption has been requested, and also the sales tax exemption during construction. I should note, given the state of construction and the fact that the sales tax exemption wouldn't be valid until after this meeting, but the steel, the outside panels, the roofing materials have all been purchased for this building already without that exemption. So though the applied for amount is $145, I question whether the company would actually use the full amount during the remainder of the project. But in any event, that's the request. So that's pretty much the project. I should say we held a public hearing on December 16th. Prior to the public hearing, due to the notice that we sent, the Pulaski Central Schools contacted me and asked some questions about the project. They did not attend the public hearing, nor did they provide any comments in writing or verbal or any other way to me or to our office ahead of this meeting. I've had a couple of discussions with them about it, but I should say, I could note editorially that Pulaski School District is fairly proactive with pilots and generally does ask questions. They want to understand the project and how it will impact their budget one way or another. And at times, with solar project in particular, the Pulaski School District has discussed with this board about modifying the terms. They didn't make any suggestions of that or request any differences from what was applied in this case. We also, the public hearing was joined by Legislator Gilson, who was the county legislator for that area, and I would say similarly, Ed wanted to find out more about the project and the terms of the pilot. He expressed his appreciation for the Healthway's growth and job creation in Pulaski and that area that their continued growth in this project will deliver. So that's pretty much it. We have already approved the initial resolution some months ago. Now we're on to the final approval, approving resolutions, as you can see in the agenda. From a seeker standpoint, the Village of Pulaski was the lead agency. It's an unlisted action due to the nature of the project, and we will be adopting their findings on the seeker of no impact. So, or a negative declaration, I should say, on the seeker. We'll be adopting their findings. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Any questions from the board on the description of the project that Kevin just gave on the tape?
Actually, question. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, Kim.
So, Kevin, you mentioned there were 75 current jobs and they expect to add 75. I'm assuming that means they're just retaining the same 75, or do we expect 150 people there when this is done?
Oh, by no means does that mean they're retaining 75. It means adding 75. 150
Okay, make sure I get that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I should note that in summer of 2020, they were under 40 employees. They're now over 75. So they've already doubled their growth in the last year and a half. Or double their employment.
Kevin, what I missed, I wasn't sure, is V Squared Management a subsidiary or of Healthway, or is it totally independent and they're just building it and leasing it back?
V Squared Management is a separate entity owned 100% by, or the sole member is Vince Laudel Sr. Healthway has a number of different owners now. They are separate entities, Len. Vince is still the CEO of Healthway and an owner, but he's not 100% owner of Healthway anymore. He sold some of the membership to raise capital.
B Square is also the owner of the Calet Theater project that the IDA assisted a number of years ago.
And I've reviewed the lease. They have a 21-year lease with Healthway, and so V Squared is building a cold box basically, and then Healthway Home Products will be fitting out the rest of the box with electrical, data, lighting, manufacturing, etc., manufacturing equipment. What else can I say about that? Healthway Home Products does not have any pilots with us, and V Square Management does, but as Mike said, but only for the CALET. So this is really the first Healthway related pilot that we've ever contemplated doing.
Yeah, but technically, I mean, or actually, it's not Healthway, it's B Square Management for the pilot.
The benefit of the, well,
But that's
Yeah.
true, that's true of most of the pilots. There's an operating company and there's a real estate holding company. There's an LLC for a real estate holding company, the pilot's actually with them, but the operating company is another company. So that's common practice. And the job count is always associated with the operating company.
Okay,
Okay, does that answer your question, Len?
yep.
Okay, is there any other questions before we start voting on the resolutions?
I want to add one thing to that discussion from Len's question, that Healthway, by all right, was entitled to apply for a pilot for this project as well, had they chosen to, and Healthway chose not to, knowing that they would be the beneficiary of the B Square Management pilot because they have a triple net lease and they pay the taxes. So any property tax abatement provided by the pilot would be directly a benefit to Healthway. So there's that. We could have two pilot applications for this project with it. Healthway's app wouldn't have been for a pilot, but it could have been for sales tax exemption for the manufacturing side of this. Where V Square Management is really only providing the box. So Healthway as a manufacturer has other sales tax exemptions they may be able to use, but those manufacturing exemptions don't apply to everything going into a new building, like lighting or shelving. It's not tax exempt for a manufacturer. Anyway, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Is there any other questions, before we start voting on the resolutions for B Square Management? Okay, so, the first one is the speaker resolution. I'm sorry. Did somebody have a comment or a question? Okay, I guess, the first one we're gonna vote on is the seeker resolution. Do I have a motion on the seeker, please?
I'll make the motion, Tim.
Okay, motion by Tim, seconded by Morris will second it. Okay, Morris, motion by Tim Stahl, seconded by Morris Savello on the seeker resolution. Len, can you do a roll call, please?
Sure, Gary Toth,
Yes.
Tim Stahl,
Yes.
Barry Trimble,
Yes.
Morris Savello,
Yes.
Lynn Schick is a yes, that's unanimous.
Okay, the seeker resolution is passed. Okay, next, resolution is the inducement resolution. Do I have a motion on the inducement resolution?
Lynn will move it.
Okay, motion by Len Schick, seconded by,
Barry will second.
seconded by Barry Trimble. Any discussion? Okay, Len, can we do a roll call vote on the inducement resolution, please?
Sure, Gary Toth,
Yes.
Tim Stahl.
Yep.
Barry Trimble,
Yes.
Morris Savello,
Yes.
Lynn Schick is a yes, that's unanimous.
Okay, the inducement resolution is passed. Okay, next is a pilot resolution. Can I entertain a motion on the pilot resolution, please?
I'll make the motion, Tim.
Okay, motion by Tim Stahl. Do I have a second?
Lynn will second it.
Okay, seconded by Len Schick. Motion by Tim Stahl, seconded by Len Schick. On the pilot resolution, is there any discussion on the pilot? Okay, Len, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Gary Toth,
Yes.
Tim Stahl,
Yes.
Barry Trimble,
Yes.
Morris Savello,
Yes.
Lynn Schick is a yes, that's unanimous.
Okay, the pilot resolution is carried. Okay, last is the final approving resolution. Can I entertain a motion on the final approving resolution, please? I'll make that motion. What? Second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Gary Toth, seconded by Barry Trimble on the final approving resolution. Is there any discussion? Okay, Lynn, can I ask you to do a roll call vote, please?
Okay, Gary Toth,
Yes.
Tim Stahl,
Yeah.
Barry Trimble,
Yes.
Morris Sabello,
Yes.
Glenn Schick is a yes, that's unanimous.
Okay, the final approving resolution is carried. Thank you, Len. All right, so that finishes D-square management. Now we go to the CFA results of Oswego County. I guess we're gonna do a review and a summary. Who's gonna speak?
Yeah.
After that.
Gary, I'm just gonna hit a high level in terms of the awards that were made back in December for the round 11 of the CFA process. From a regional perspective, a breakdown between the 5 counties. Cuyahoga County had 8 projects approved for roughly $1.4 million of awards. Cortland County had 5 projects approved for 1.7 million awards. Madison County had 8 projects approved for 1.8 million. Onondaga County had 15 projects approved for 9.2 million, and Oswego County had 19 projects approved for a little over $5 million in total. So Oswego County was led in terms of projects approved, and Onondaga County led in terms of the actual dollar amount of the awards. Total 19.1 million in projects, 55 projects. The policy that's going on right now with the CFA process is really has somewhat been shifted. It's really, the awards went to municipal type of projects, not to private sector companies, which is a little disappointing. It probably makes a lot of municipalities happy, but it's a little disappointing that the state, in terms of ESDC funding, has really gotten tighter in terms of what they will consider for funding. But from the county standpoint, we came out pretty good. Both cities, there were 6 projects combined in the cities of Fulton and Oswego. There were 6 projects in Oswego County in 4 different towns. There were 4 projects approved in 3 different villages, and countywide there was 3 projects approved. In the EDAR report that will be being mailed out, there's all the projects are identified with their award amounts. I won't get into that in this discussion, but actually the round 11 is still going on. There's actually a scoring committee meeting this afternoon on a number of projects for ESDC funding. I am totally disappointed in the process as with ESDC projects. I do not know what's really transpiring, but they have really put the brakes on participating in funding projects compared to previous rounds of the CFA. But it is what it is, and there's only 6 projects on the docket this afternoon for scoring for ESDC funders. But in general, and 3 of those are in Oswego County. And in addition to that, there's really a much lower level of participation in commercial projects by the state. They have really backed off on participating at all with healthcare related projects, and which is not surprising because there are other sources of funding. But ESDC is really tightened its belt in terms of participating in actual funding. I mean, a lot of the other state agencies funded projects. I think we in Oswego County only had a couple projects approved for funding by ESDC. But that's it. Round 11 continues. First time it's ever overlapped into another year, but because ESDC has been so tight, there's still money available that was allocated for ESDC funding.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Is there any questions or comments for Michael on the summary of the CFA funding?
Hey, Mike, this is Tim. You said you guys had a meeting to discuss that today. Do they have an idea of when they will be announcing that? I know the first 3 rounds that went last year all essentially were pretty much announced at the same time, pretty late. Do you know if this is going to be a quick turnaround?
I seriously doubt anything's going to be quick. Again, there's 3 projects from Oswego County that's on the that has been passed through the test of eligibility. They have really ESDC has really been ruling projects ineligible, and the ones we have on today, one's a healthcare related project, one's a mixed-use commercial project, and the other one is, what is the other one?
Brewery.
Yeah, the other one is a commercial project as well. It's so they're
Sorry,
those are the
I don't
3.
understand.
Wait a minute. Take that back. That was not on the agenda today.
What?
It's been ruled ineligible.
Oh.
Same thing with our veterinarian. We tried twice with a veterinarian hospital and it got kicked out every time.
I'm actually surprised Riverview Pediatrics made the cut.
That's the healthcare one. There is a healthcare one. There is a one healthcare one that was past the eligibility test, but again, passing the eligibility test with ESDC, it doesn't, from my perspective, looking at what goes on, has very little to do with actually getting awarded funding.
Especially this round, there's been.
All right. Hey, Mike, this is Tim. Will you give me a call after this meeting?
Yeah, sure will.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions for Michael regarding the CFA funding?
Yeah, this is Dave. Mike, there was a application to ESDC for funding, excuse me, funding for the wastewater project at Phoenix, and that was.
It never got approved.
I know it didn't get approved. I was wondering if we can get some feedback about, why it didn't, so that for future opportunities, we'll be able to correct anything that was deficient.
Yeah, we can get some feedback from ESDC why that was rejected, but internally, I believe primarily is they felt that ESDC money shouldn't be going toward that. It should be DEC or Environmental Facilities Corp or something like that should be the funding source for a municipal wastewater treatment project. I know the industrial park, expansion thing was linked to and tied to that, but, something I've, always been pissed off about, is that they look, well, that's a speculative project. You know, what isn't a speculative project when you're developing an industrial park? You don't have all your tenants and clients lined up and ready to go. But that's the position they've been taking. And I'm not saying it's a position that's been taken regionally, through the ESDC office and Jim Fell, but it's a position that's been taken in Albany.
Okay. Any other, questions or comments for Michael regarding, CFA funding?
Hey, Mike, it's Tim. Just generically speaking, when we look at the projects that are being awarded by ESPC and that are being considered, some of the ones we just talked about have been awarded in the past. Is that a change in their direction? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Empire State Development, I mean, you know, they really cracked down on the mixed-use facility. They won't finance any of the housing component of the mixed-use facility, just the commercial component of it that they will consider participating in. They're still doing a fair amount of mixed use, but when it gets borderline in terms of commercial projects, I mean, they perceive that they look at a physician office building or something like that as commercial. Healthcare, they used to finance a fair amount of healthcare projects, but I don't believe any healthcare projects got funded. Well, there wasn't any this year in 2021, and there were a lot of applications and good applications, but they bowed out and eliminated that as being eligible. From their review standpoint, it may be eligible, but they
Or making it a priority.
they didn't award any money for it. Same thing, we're concerned today about the project that's going in today. You know, it hopefully will get a decent score, but I've seen a lot of 20s. The veterinarian project had a score of 20 last time and didn't get funded.
So they went to Oregon.
And they haven't had the courtesy to even send a notification to the company that it's not funded, but it wasn't in the hopeful package that was announced in December. So, and if it's not on that list, it's not going to get funded. Now I don't know.
Does that change the way? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so does that change the way that we need to target development in the county? And if you know our largest funding stream is ruling a lot of projects that we think are good projects and eligible, you know, is it something we need to take up maybe a different process? We just spin off. I mean, thinking of a brewery project, that's been something we've been talking about for a long time as being a target of the state. Has it changed that? Is there another funding agency, or is it these projects are just not going to get funded?
No, there not any other funding agencies that can participate in those types of projects because they're not authorized to do stuff like that. ESDC, from the standpoint, I mean, their leadership structure has changed, so that's given them a little bit different direction. You know, I believe, I believe that, I don't know how you can modify the process. The CFA process may not be around at some point in time either. But basically this year, it really shifted to be almost like a CBDG type of funding, municipal type of funding more so than anything else. A lot of planning grants for engineering work for water, sewer. There was a whole slew of those. but they're small grants. And of course, the city, Tim, you came out pretty good. I mean, the bridge lighting project has been in, what, 2 times before and didn't get funded, and this time it got funded, and the Project Park expansion project got funded. So the city came out pretty good. Fulton came out pretty good with several significant projects in Fulton, but they were all municipal projects.
Well, I'm like, that's kind of where my frustration comes from. As much as I like those municipal projects and they're going to be helpful, we have, personally, I know you guys at Oswego County have as well. I know Dave has as well, but, we've been working with local people who are going to hire, they're job creators. These are going to be ultimately, not just more municipal jobs. I still understand, I guess, why, Mike, you're pretty much the only one at that table. What is going on? How do we encourage them? Listen, guys, this is the type of project that we need. We need job creation. We don't need, I love municipal projects, but we need job creation.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I've had battles with them before for assisted living projects that they've ruled not eligible. The healthcare issue is one that is recent. I mean, that's in the last couple of years that healthcare projects were frowned upon as an application. But people still are submitting them, but they're not getting funded.
And they're turning down tourism projects too.
And from the standpoint of manufacturing projects, I mean, if this is good, solid manufacturing projects, that still scores pretty well, and they get allocated funding. But if it's something else that is non-manufacturing or distribution, warehousing, some of those things score pretty well. Tech-related companies score pretty well. But I totally agree. It's very frustrating. I mean, we got totally frustrated dealing with the veterinarian project down in Hastings, thinking that it was a real strong application, good jobs, good paying jobs, significant investment. When it got shot down the first time, we attempted to go back with the second round and modify it a little bit and put more emphasis on the emergency animal care as opposed to just a regular veterinary hospital, and thought maybe that was a niche that they would buy into. But evidently, to the best of our knowledge, it wasn't on Hochul's list in December, and the business, unfortunately, has not gotten a notification in writing that it's denied. So does that mean it still possibly could get funded? I would say it's 1% chance that that's going to happen. But I don't appreciate the state not giving the company the courtesy of letting them know.
Well, I like it really, but you keep coming back from that saying that they've got money to spend. We're opening up new rounds. I'm wondering if it's just they already made the decision the first time, right? Similar to the other one I'm thinking of. They already made it. Doesn't matter what you say, they're stuck to their original opinion even if you resubmit with some revisions.
Well, I agree. I agree with you. They don't want to admit that they were wrong.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, I'll leave it at that for now, but I appreciate your pitch on that. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, anything else, any other questions or comments on the CFA funding? Okay, now down to number 6, the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. Who's going to discuss that?
Dave Turner could take the lead on that if you want to, Dave.
Well, Austin, I think, has been nominated, I guess, as the lead for our team. So, he and I were both on a call yesterday. I'd like to actually turn it over to him if he's present.
I am.
Thanks, Dave. Just wanted to state that, so for the first round of the application, Dave Turner with Oswego County was sort of the lead for the project. As sort of the process has evolved, and we've had several conversations now with Dave Botar, Central New York Regional Planning Development Board, and Center State, who are sort of the lead entities on the regional application. Um, it's come out that because the IDA owns the property, that they're probably the appropriate entity to be the applicant to submit the local application from Oswego County. It makes things simpler. If the county were to do it, then we would still have to be a sub applicant, and we would have to do some redundant work. So it makes sense for at this time for the IDA to be the actual applicant from Oswego County to EDA, and we're currently working on that.
Maybe you should go over the fact that it's not just one application,
Yes.
it's multiple applications within
Yeah.
the big application.
So what happened originally is there was one application submitted by Center State, but there were 8 sort of major partners under that. One of those being the Oswego County IDA, with Oswego County for the park project that we have, the expansion of the industrial park and putting in infrastructure. There's other partners such as Onondaga County IDA with White Pines. There is Mohawk Valley Edge. It ended up becoming a joint application between Central New York and the Mohawk Valley. And then there's some other partners. There's education partners. I believe there's a Cayuga County partner. So altogether, there's 8 projects under this sort of umbrella regional application. And altogether, those 8 projects is about, I think it's about $85 million, maybe $86 million. Which one of those projects is the IDA's project, which we have, it's a $10 million project total with a $7.5 million request